I did the beginning of this video so many times, it's not gonna seem authentic, so I'm sorry. But what I'm trying to say is, sorry if you hear my dog in the background. He's doing puppy things, eating my slippers, playing with toys, biting my table, puppy things. So I don't really know what I intend this video to be, so the beginning in this whole video probably is going to be sloppy, but the main intent of this video is I want to document for my own personal sake. No, you can do anything you want, but not to my curtains. That's where I draw the line. I'll show you my dog. This is my puppy. I'm not gonna say his, actually who cares if I say his name? It's not like you guys are gonna hack my dog. My dog's name is Igor. So what I want the sake of this video to be is the self-discovery process of me either figuring out if I have OSDD type P or if I don't. So right now I'm experiencing a lot of self-denial, but I've had some experiences that have at least made me contemplate it. So the timeline of this is really messy and honestly kind of, what's the word, invalidating or jeopardizes the validity of, for me it makes sense, but for others it jeopardizes the ability of someone believing if I have it or not, and also the credibility of the symptomology I'm having now. So instinctually I want to say a timeline, so I'm just gonna do the timeline. So in 2018 I had the discovery that a trauma that I repressed and had no memory of whatsoever happening, not even like memories or anything, just the idea that this trauma had happened to me. I had the reemergence of that vague feeling in 2018, and that caused me to have the worst psychosis I've had in my life. So I do experience psychosis, mostly psychotic episodes. There's times where I live with, I bought you your own mini version. Sorry. There's times where I have mini psychosis. It's kind of this vague, almost delusion type. See, this is gonna see what I mean, or it's gonna make me sound crazy. That's a bad word. I didn't mean that. I did mean that, but I didn't mean that. So, anyways, so right now I would say I'm like 99% sane in the legal, clinical sense of the word. But go back to 2018, this reemergence, this belief, because it was very jarring, and it made the denial of that and the acceptance of that a very difficult process, which I didn't come to accept until maybe last summer. So reemergence of that trauma made me go into a psychosis. Very beginning of, because it's a gradual process, not gradual, sometimes it can be very abrupt, but there's usually some kind of process of me going into psychosis. It's typically not like I wake up and I'm in a psychosis. Sometimes it's like I can, looking back, I felt it coming in the moment I don't have that in the moment I don't have that awareness. Okay, it's just my dog. So again, to reiterate this for the last time, reemergence of trauma made me have a psychosis. The beginning of that trauma, I had DID type symptoms, where what I think is what probably was actually happening was I felt the multiplicity of my headspace. Yeah, well, I like that word, so I'll say headspace. So I think what I did was I felt the multiplicity of that headspace, but my experience of psychosis, primarily delusion, kind of amplified and extreme, made that to an extreme. So when I came out of that psychosis, immediate, that trauma didn't happen. No one in my life was accepting of that trauma. That's not true. It was messy. It's still messy. So basically, after I came out of that psychosis, being multiple, I was in a psychosis. The trauma, I was in a psychosis. So I just suppressed that again. And I think the reemergence in the present times has been a gradual process. And I think the first stages of that was me coming back into realizing this trauma did in fact happen. So that was a slow process too. So I think that was step one. I think step one was, let's do that actually, because I can map this out in my head now. Step one was coming into terms. I don't have any memories. I'll go into more detail into this, but I don't have any memories of it. It's just knowing that this trauma happened. I have a hard time saying those words because I still have a lot of self-doubt and denial, but for the most part, knowing that this trauma happened was step one. And then, as I was saying, that in January this year, 2024, step two of coming back to being a multiple was, again, just feeling like other people. Sorry, I scratch my nose. I know it's so gross, but I just do it. I'm just a nasty person, I guess. So, my mind just went blank. Step two, January. I don't remember what I was talking about. Sorry. The anxiety. See, before I just thought this is going to be a little space from the timeline steps analogy I was trying to do, but before I just thought I would call it a brain fart. I would call it losing my train of thought. Like, there's normal common phrases to explain what just happened to me, but what I think happened, now that I have the language to understand this symptom and how it's manifesting, was, and I can't cite this because it was probably someone who also had was a multiple explaining it, but I know somewhere, somehow, that there's a thing where alters can like import words but also take them away. And I think that's what it was. I think someone is stopping me from talking about this. See, when I say that? Sorry. Okay. So, I'm going back. I'm just trying to I left off step two with... my foot's cramping. Sorry. I left off with step two. This is already a 10-minute video. I'm making this because there is no videos like this. I need someone to explain to me what it felt like when you were learning what it was like. I need this. Someone else needs this, so I'm doing this. I will push through and be a very boring video. Okay, so step two. Step one, yes. So I don't know why this was such an important discovery for me to make, because even without this trauma, I knew I was a very traumatized person. Again, had no memories, but the other types of trauma was more talked about in my family. I have siblings, so it was more talked about in my family and people I grew up with. Like, everyone knew the other types of trauma that was happening in my household. So, but this other type of trauma, I needed to have some sort of awareness of. Step 1. Step 2 was being a multiple creeping back into my mind and like just. So one of the things that was so hard for me to watch other videos and be like, yes, me too, was the normalcy. That's not a word, but that's a word, but I'm not saying it right. The fact that my reality was just that's all I knew. I have a lot of insight and I know this about myself, but I just accept things. Like, type 1. I knew I was hearing voices the first time I heard voices, and I knew they were not real voices. I didn't do anything about it. Not a goddamn thing. I just rolled with it. Like, I just roll with shit. So, the being a multiple, like those symptoms of like feeling someone else's presence, like other people described it as like feeling like someone's taking control of my body, feeling like I'm being possessed, feeling like I'm being watched. I didn't have that I had that experience, but that's not how I would describe it. I would just describe it as, that's life. So this is a messy way to talk about language being really important for self-discovery and being aware of your symptoms. And why that was so important for me, because the experiences I was having, let me finish this train of thought. The experiences I was having of being a multiple, I didn't realize it was anything other than I thought it was just being a single, just like your life. I thought it was just how life was. So there wasn't no foreign feeling telling me this was abnormal, atypical, basically off the baseline of human experience. Sorry, I just always readjust my clothing because I don't know, I just don't like how my clothes fit on me sometimes. So step 2 was just having the awareness of being multiple come in to my, the awareness. Just basically like the experiences I was having, getting the language to describe how I was feeling, to understand what I was feeling, and how that was not a normal experience. I'm sorry, this video isn't meant for people who, I have a lot of insight. I don't know how to describe this. I don't have a lot of, what I said. Like, everything just feels the same to me. Everything just feels the same. It was the same thing with like my other diagnosis. Like, everything was like, that's life, right? Like, that's just normal. Or just not concerning, or rub the dirt off your shoulders. Like, so, but what the main kicker was, let's be real, was an alter came forward. So, like I said, I have just amnesia in general, all of my parts. I think I have OSDD type B, because I can remember when another alter, I don't know if I like that. Say, don't scratch me. I don't think I like that word, but it's the common word, so I'll just continue using it for now until I find a word I like. But an alter, I felt another alter come into the front, and that was like, this shit's not normal. I am not myself, and there's some things I know, like, I have a bald head, not by choice. So I typically wear a hat, not because I'm not gonna go into why I wear a hat. I just typically wear a hat. I like wearing a hat. So, but this alter, who is an older gentleman and just different style and whatever, hated that I had a hat on, hated what I was wearing. I wear streetwear, I think is what it's called. Hated it. If he felt juvenile in what I was wearing, he felt unauthentic. He held his body in another way. His facial expressions was held in another way. All of this, I was actively aware of that. Everything about how I'm saying it wasn't me, but everything was that alter in that moment was not me. So I explained that. Now, I don't even know what this video is. I think that now this is just coming to me talking about my symptoms so I don't forget them. Anyways, so now I knew all that, but my self-doubt came in because I was like, I knew I wasn't me, but I was still me, kind of. And now I realize, so back when I thought I had a psychosis, and I had a psychosis, but I still have DID. I don't know. Hey, buddy. Let me just be a dog. Dad, mom, I don't know what I am. So, anyways. I knew. So, the alter I was talking about, I don't know why I don't want to say names. I don't know. I don't know if he wants me to, like, tell his business. So, I'm not going to say his name. So, the alter that I had up, I knew, when I was in that psychosis in 2018, I dove straight into DID. I learned a lot about DID, and I think the entropy system, multiplicity in me, dissociated, he who shall not be named. I learned a lot from those channels, and so I know. I'm sorry if you don't know what co-fronting is. This is not the video to explain. This is my explaining my early representations and how I learned to discover while actually talking about the self. This video is 18 minutes. I hope I'm at least entertaining enough. No, Igor. My dog is okay. It's my vape, but I never leave the vape cartridge where he can get it, so it's just metal. Wire he shouldn't touch either. I know what he want me to do. I was not ready for this. I wasn't ready for this dog. I was not. I don't think anyone is ever ready for a fucking puppy. He was my first dog too, so I try my best and I do my best, and he's alive and he's well kept. So I think I'm doing well. I'm showing you where I left off. There's also no script or timeline. I'm just speaking. Anyways, so step 1, accepting that trauma. Step 2 was learning the language to describe symptoms so I could identify the symptoms that were happening in my life. That's a good way to summarize that. Step 3, I think step 2 was Carl. And then step 3 was watching more videos and having language and also other people describing things in ways that opened my eyes, and I was like, that's what they mean. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I want people to have like that's what you mean, because with me it's like I don't know. I also have a cat. She's meowing. I work overnights and it's 9 in the morning, so it's like bedtime for me. So he's excited because I'm home now. She wants me to cuddle up and go to bed. I'm just taking shit that's distracting and doesn't matter for the video. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm not gonna edit this because I don't like editing and I don't know how to edit and I don't like being authentic and raw. And I'm not trying to be a YouTuber. So, okay. This will be the long version. I'll make another video after this summarizing it in like 5 minutes. So, okay. I think I am gonna upload this because other people need to realize what this is. And I want to document for myself because I'm leaning more towards that I do have it. So, anyways. Step 2. Did I say his name? I'm feeling his name. So I don't know if I said his name. I hope I didn't say it. He's not a nice... I shouldn't say that. He's not a nice person. He's kind of mean to me, actually. I'm not scared of him, though. He's just mean. Okay. So step 2 was that altar coming out, and then step 3 was learning the language to describe. I've said this so many times, but step 3 was just kind of having the hint of, oh shit, this might actually be happening to me, to like feel the acceptance to claim how I was feeling was true, and then having the language to describe it. So I think that's where I'm at. So I don't think I went into symptoms that I'm having. So before, when I thought I was multiple, well, I still think I am actually, but when in the early stages, because it's still the early stage, I first had a vague feeling people were talking in my head. But I didn't know what they were saying. I couldn't hear distinct voices. I couldn't hear, it just sounded like my voice, really quiet, but it sounded like talking. Like I felt like people were talking in my head. And then how that progressed was, then it got into chatter, but still like no distinct individualized voices. Last night though, I got distinct individualized voices. Didn't know what they were saying, but it was also more clear. Like, have you ever watched that video where it's like how English sounds like to people who don't speak English? It's kind of interesting. If you don't speak anything but English and English wasn't your first language, that was so westernized and neocentric. Anyways. Sometimes I say things and I'm like, that sounds stupid, and then I feel really embarrassed. Anyways, so it sounded, I didn't hear the act. It wasn't clear speaking, but it sounded like English. And the thing that was like, oh my god, this was new to me, was I never heard individualized voices. Like I never heard, like now not so much anymore because I don't remember anything. I don't get to keep my memories. So but at the time I was like, oh my god, if somebody immediately, like after I heard it, played like 3 other voices, none of them even being my voice, I could pick out what exactly I had just heard. So like that's how I knew that that's an individualized voice. Like that I heard a man and I heard a woman. What else? Anytime I try to force hearing these things, it does. Oh, in class. Sorry. In class today, I'm still skeptical of this, but I think this is what it was. I think I was hearing somebody snore in like the inner world, which, like, if I don't want to really say that I'm multiple, me talking about inner world, I'm not there yet, buddy. But I know I said that I heard voices, but that was like once back in 2015. It's 2024 now. What? So I I remember what it felt like to hear those voices. It didn't feel like that. And I remember because before, when I heard those voices, I knew exactly where I was hearing that voice, whereas the snoring, sorry, I remember looking all around my classroom because I'm like, who's sleeping this loudly and disrespectfully in class? I couldn't see anyone. Um, so it felt like sometimes I like have areas in my head kind of like feel very like you know when somebody's whispering in your ear and it's like shh, like it's like that intense, like that indescribable energy. That's the word, I think. Energy you feel when like with other people, like when someone's mad and you just feel their mad energy. But what I'm trying to say is more like proximity. So like when someone gets really close to you, like say if like your back is like you're looking straight and someone gets really close to the back of your neck without touching you and without you having any kind of visual like kind of perception to someone getting close to you, you would like sense. It's like when somebody's staring at you, you sense that, right? So that is I feel that in my head. And like, so I kept looking this way. I'm like, where is this person? Because I was feeling it in this side. And typically, when I like feel like I'm hearing people talk, it's like in this ear. But like there's other times where it's other parts of my head that like have that like energy feeling. So I think that's one feeling too, that is like a feeling that is distinct, that I know I'm experiencing. I'm getting this energy, which is what I'm trying to say, where it just feels like I'm multiple. But I think I'm just gonna leave it there. I covered the one altar coming up. I covered energy and just feeling. I covered this. Oh, one more thing. In my other class, I heard crickets. And when back in 2018, when I was more, I think when I was kind of amplifying what I was feeling, I had this vague inner sense also that my inner world is very green, very forest, kind of this modern looking cabin, lots of windows. I don't know if that's just what I ideally would want to live into. So I don't know if that's making a bias, but that's what, at least at the time, and I haven't shook that feeling that that's what it is. And then in class, I was hearing crickets. So I was like, Forrest, do you hear crickets in forests? I don't know, actually. I think you do, right? Yeah. I know it's just nature. So that was another vague feeling. So I'm gonna hopefully, because I'm keeping an open mind, is what I think is most important. More of these symptomology come into my awareness. But yeah, so basically, I had trauma that I suppressed, but not the actual trauma, just the fact that the trauma happened, come back to the center of my mind. I had I guess I would kind of say my psychosis thinking at DID, like I look at it like kind of like how DID is a coping mechanism. I think that psychosis was a coping mechanism. Just a random one that's not common for people. It's not a part of the DID experience. That's just my own broken psyche. So I had knowing that I had that trauma and knowing that I was multiple. See, I'm saying that, but like, I'm still skeptical. But thinking that I was multiple, I had that happen. Then I suppressed it. And then I started to slowly accept that trauma again. And then this is another thing that I think is validating, because those two have gone hand in hand. twice now. I just discovered that for myself, speaking out loud. So anyways, and then also I had that alter come forward. I've had language, so I know things like what it means to feel like someone is possessing you, co-fronting, weird energy shifts, and like being aware that I'm holding myself differently. I have distinct different likes. I'm hearing distinct voices. So this is a sloppy video. I know if you just skip straight to the end, I'm gonna write everything out on my notepad, and then I'm going to I'll try to do like a 5 to 7 minute video. So this is a lot of word vomit, but I don't know if it's helpful. I might not post this, but I want the, but what was it really like when you were first learning you had it? That's why I'm doing this. So that's why this video is so long. This is me talking, and now I'm getting personal, but this is me just also talking to myself and talking to someone, myself in this camera, about the experiences I'm having, because it's very isolating and I'm not enjoying it, to be quite frank. I'm not enjoying this. Nobody knows about it. And sometimes I feel like I want to take my head and rip it apart because it feels like I'm going that insane. So when my dog gets really still and quiet, I think he's dead. And I remember, it's irrelevant. This is just me talking about, I think I just need a friend, so I'm sorry.